Welcome back to Area DMG. I'm your host, Phil Wesley, the Mile High Mouth, and for today's episode of Suki Nihon for Area DMG, we're looking at episode 22 of Season 3 of Steven Universe, Beta. I know, that seems kind of a weird name for an episode, but bear with me on this. Essentially, Amethyst and Steven go and visit Lapis and Peridot out in the country. Lapis and Peridot try to impress Amethyst and Steven with art, which they're calling something else. They're calling it like Florp or something like that. It's a weird little thing. I didn't really quite catch it. I need to watch it with like subtitles on or something and be like, okay, I'll catch what that is later. But yeah, well, Lapis calls it that. Steven, of course, knows it's art. And that leads to a few funny little sequences with them and their odd little country bumpkin lifestyle that they've fashioned for themselves in that barn. Yeah. Pretty much what Lapis and Peridot do all day is create, end quote, stuff, and watch that Camp Burning Hearts show, which is kind of a show within a show. Similar to how Crying Breakfast Friends and Lonely Sword are a little show within a show in this show. Although, to be perfectly honest, I feel that the show within a show concept that they have sometimes in Steven Universe was much better done in the more recent like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoons, where it actually had some forbearance on the episode and was actually really well done. That's a good series. I'm not currently reviewing it, but I do think that people should definitely check it out. That one's pretty good. It's on Nickelodeon. Definitely worth your time. But anyways, back to Steven Universe. Amethyst is still bumming out about losing to Jasper. And I'm like, I thought they got over that in Steven versus Amethyst. After they did the little bismuth episode and she upgraded, I thought that particular story arc was done. But that's kind of an issue sometimes with this show, where they're like, hey, here is our inadequacy rabbit. Oh, hey, we pulled out this inadequacy rabbit. Feel bad for this character. Okay, now we're going to resolve that in this episode. Put it back in here. Oh, we're at the second episode after this. Or we're after an episode. Oh, a couple episodes later. Hey, look. It's this particular rabbit again. Remember this? Remember how you felt about this character? Remember this? Remember this? Yeah, that's repetitive and kind of bad writing. If you're going to resolve a personal issue with the character, maybe sometimes you should leave it resolved, because if you keep bringing it up, it becomes more of a trope for that character and makes the character less likable in the long run. Repetition is the enemy of character development. It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Anywho, I thought that was really kind of irritating, but after Amethyst kind of insults Peridot and Lapis, Steven goes and talks to Peridot about it, and Peridot's like, oh, okay, I think I'll cheer her up. So Peridot goes over there, because Peridot is the best character, and talks to Amethyst and decides to take Amethyst and Steve into the, quote, beta, end quote, kindergarten. It's not really a math joke. Anywho, that's in the desert. That's where Jasper was born. So they go to the birthplace of Jasper, and they find Jasper's hole of origin, which Peridot discovers is amazing because it's apparently like completely flawless, perfect weapon, etc., etc. That makes Amethyst feel a little bit iffy, and then, well, she decides that she's just going to be the one to beat Jasper. She doubles down on her own insecurities, because doubling down on something is always a good idea, right? Yep. Oh, this didn't work before. Better double down on it. But yeah, sometimes these characters are a little frustrating in this. We do find a little bit more about, like, near the end of the rebellion, or the war from that, before they left the planet and corrupted everything. Well, they got desperate to make soldiers. They couldn't use the original kindergarten, so they started using other things, and stuff got a little weird and desperate, and you get kind of the opinion that, like, neither the homeworld gems or the crystal gems were really understanding what that rebellion would do. You see, you kind of need to have an end game. and we don't know what Rose Quartz's end game essentially was. I mean, it may have been just to like live in peace on this particular planet, Earth. But there may have been more to it. We won't ever find that out. And after like being stranded on the Earth for thousands of years, that changed quite a bit. We got kind of a hint with the whole thing with Bismuth that maybe the original intent wasn't just to drive the homeworld gems off of Earth, but to also take that fight to them. And I think that's kind of important to keep in mind as we go through these upcoming episodes, I think. Anyways, this episode ends when they realize that the little holes and stuff in the wall, taken from that kind of weird little manga, there's creatures in those holes. Jasper's been putting together her own little menagerie of corrupted gems held together by iron bars in, well, this beta kindergarten. And at the end of the episode, Jasper is shown gloating over one of her new captives, and Amethyst is like, okay, I'm going to deal with this. And that's the end of the episode. Not a bad episode. I think that a little bit of it, you get a lot of great little backstory, essentially. A little bit more information about the whole war. Considering that Steven Universe only has 5 seasons, it has not been renewed for a 6th season, and we're in season 3, because season 2 was split up between, like, instead of being like about 52 episodes or so, like the first season, season 2 was split up into 2 and 3, and then the original season 3 was split up into 4 and 5. I can see that they're kind of ramping up a lot of the story stuff to get this to an inevitable but hopefully satisfying conclusion at some point down the road. Unless they get renewed for a 6th season, and then we'll get more the new Lars style episodes. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a pretty good episode, and I'm pretty happy that the way they decided to air this was back to back with the episode after it, which is called Earthlings, which I'm going to review after this. And yeah, let me know in the comments below what you thought of this episode. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until the next video comes out, you are now caught up.